Hello lovely viewers, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful News official YouTube channel. Given that Liam Spencer Scott Clifton miracle is clearly not what it appears, the Bold and the Beautiful BNB spoilers for Thursday, July 17th, suggest that fraudster she Buckingham Cassandra Creech will concentrate on her cover-up. Before the procedure, Grace made sure Bill Spencer Dondamat was transferring the money and introduced her colleague, Dr. Ada Carey, but there's undoubtedly a nefarious element at play here. Fans of BMBB saw Grace cut Liam's head. However, what took place next? We're wagering that Liam never had a true tumor in the first place, and that nothing occurred at all. It's possible that Grace was coerced into rescuing brain-damaged people, telling them they had an incurable tumor, and then offering them this incredible opportunity to live. Liam would have been a particularly suitable target for this fraud, since his father was quite affluent. Grace could have faked the scans and given Liam medicine to give him the impression that his ailments were becoming worse prior to this miraculous recovery. Since he hasn't spoken anything while on screen, Dr. Ada Carey really doesn't appear like a legitimate doctor. Although Grace says the tumor has disappeared and Liam is a medical miracle, it seems possible that Liam was never really terminally sick. Naturally, Bill is ecstatic that the procedure seems to have gone well. Grace may attempt to convince herself that everyone benefits from this situation. But if Bill realized he had wasted all that money, he would undoubtedly disagree. They may be about to discover Grace's involvement in this scheme as Tanner Nolan, Ashley Jones, John Finn Finnegan, and Bridget Forrester are wondering why Grace allegedly gave Liam over to Bill's care so quickly. Presumably, Grace believed she had no other option if she and her girls were under attack. However, she is still accountable for her decisions and will unavoidably face criticism when everything goes wrong. For the time being, Grace will verify that the funds have been moved and seem remorseful for all the shoddy behavior. Grace will, however, hope that the remainder of this plan proceeds well. There will always be obstacles on your path. Bill Spencer made a move that nobody saw coming, which may upend lives and leave the Forrester and Spencer families reeling. He told the authorities all he knew about the fraudulent plot that almost killed Liam Spencer, which included Reese and Dr. Grace Buckingham. Bill ultimately put together the horrific reality after weeks of suspicion, murmurs behind closed doors, enigmatic hospital visits, and late-night rendezvous that heightened his intuition. In addition to being experimental, the alleged miraculous surgery Liam had was the result of deceit, greed, and treachery committed by the same medical professionals he trusted with his son's life. Bill eventually became unable to ignore the clues as he paced the clinic's private waiting area where Liam was still in serious condition. Grace had argued for herself. After years of exile, Ree had returned abruptly, and the documentation for the procedure was erratic. Even worse, a nurse had privately expressed concerns to him. A missing vial of a vital medication, fabricated medical certifications, and hush-hush money going into an offshore account are all causes for concern. The connections started to form. When Bill Spencer makes connections, he keeps going until the whole image is seen. That's when he realized Liam wasn't just suffering from a medical issue. Someone was going to pay for the well-planned swindle that had defrauded him. After leaving Katie and Wyatt beside Liam's bedside, Bill ran out of the building and headed straight for the closest LAPD precinct. As he drove, flashbacks tormented his head. The time Grace informed him that the procedure was worthwhile despite the risks. The recollection of Grace and Ree fighting in the parking garage weeks before, and the way Ree had stayed too long close to Liam's chart. He marched straight up to Detective Sanchez's desk when he got to the station and spoke the words that would unlock a Pandora's box. Two physicians, Grace Buckingham and her ex-husband Ree, are involved in a medical fraud plot that almost killed my kid, according to evidence I have. Given Reese's criminal past with the Hope Beth baby exchange years before, Sanchez, who is well known to the Buckinghams, took the claims seriously right once. Everything that Bill had was set out. Grace's coded talks, phone records, emails, questionable invoicing, and even a covert tape he had taken of Ree bragging in a pub that the Spencers owed him. Within hours of the task force's formation, subpoenas were now sent to the clinic, the Buckinghams' residences, and their bank accounts. Back at the clinic, Grace was talking quietly on her phone while standing outside Liam's room. It's finished. The board is clueless. We get away with it as long as Liam lives. However, when cops in uniform came into the premises and walked up to her, that optimism was dashed. Dr. Grace Buckingham, we have a warrant for your arrest for medical fraud, conspiracy to commit malpractice, and endangerment of a patient's life, a police officer said. Nurses and patients stared in horrified silence as Grace's face lost color. She objected. No, this has to be a mistake, but the cops shackled her without showing any pity. Shortly after trying to arrange a travel abroad, Ree was caught using an alias at a hotel in Beverly Hills. He didn't fight back. The game was up, he realized. He murmured angrily, "Bill Spencer," as he was escorted off. But Bill never kept his mouth shut when it came to protecting his sons, especially not Liam. You should have kept your mouth shut. The fallout was immediate and devastating. When Steffi heard the truth, she started crying. She told us how a scam had made Liam's condition worse, how greedy and personal vengeful doctors had preyed on their desperation, and how we allowed them to use him as a lab rat. Hope was distraught. She had trusted Grace's judgment when no one else had. She was weeping uncontrollably as she sat next to Liam and held his hand, saying, "I could have done a better job of protecting you." "I should have known," she mumbled. Ridge became furious and sought answers from all state medical boards. The hospital board rushed to repair the damage, but was too done. How can a disgraced doctor like Ree simply go back into a hospital? How did no one stop him? At the Spencer Publications office, Bill sat alone in his executive chair, staring out the window with a whiskey glass in hand, the city lights twinkling like stars, but all he could see was Liam's pale, motionless body in that hospital bed. Liam's health was on the verge of collapse, and now his family knew it wasn't just fate, it was sabotage. He had won the war. Grace and Ree had been apprehended, but at what cost? Liam had not yet woken up, and the doctors now disclosed that the experimental procedure had been a complete failure, tampered with by Ree, who had injected Liam with an unapproved neuroagent that was supposed to increase brain activity, but instead caused nervous system damage. Liam's recovery was not guaranteed. Bill had saved innumerable business deals and precisely crushed enemies, but he was unable to mend his son's broken body, and that haunted him. Meanwhile, the Buckinghams were being torn apart, and Grace, who had once been respected and proud, was now facing serious jail time and having her medical license revoked. It was supposed to be safe. Ray said Europe had used the drug. He told me we could save Liam and make money doing it. I didn't know he would also lie to me, but that wasn't enough to save her. The DA wanted the harshest penalties for both Buckinghams. Her tearful confession in the interrogation room shocked even the most cynical officers. Unrepentant and cocky, Ree told the media that he was a visionary and that medicine needed risks to advance, but no one was buying it, not after Beth was abducted and not now. The fashion industry was in disarray as the arrest was reported, and Forrester Creations was under pressure to break ties with Grace, who had previously been a featured health and wellness spokesperson in a marketing campaign. Zen was incensed inside. She took advantage of us. Finn was caught in the crossfire as well. His mother-in-law's treachery rocked him, and he started to doubt all of his professional decisions. "How do I continue practicing medicine when I didn't see this coming?" he whispered. "She used my family." He questioned Steffi. Even Luna, who was still grieving over her own family secrets, felt deceived. "Grace was supposed to be the good one," she said to RJ. "Now, I don't know who I can trust." In a rare display of humility, Bill went to the hospital chapel, where he fell to his knees as the candlelight flickered. She held his hand and whispered, "Because your heart is pure." Her was not. A man who had always relied on money and power realized that neither could save the person he loved most, so he made a heartfelt plea. Minutes later, Hope rushed into the chapel. "If you can hear me, God, whoever, you owe me nothing. But Liam, he's good, he's strong, he's everything I wish I was." With tears streaming down her face, she cried, "Bill," and he moved. Liam moved his hand, and the doctors verified that it wasn't a reflex. Liam had reacted to touch and sound. Hope was rekindled, and Bill went back to Liam's side, took his son's fingers and murmured, "Stay with me, son. I eliminated those who had harmed you. Now you're safe." The tension between Ree and Grace reached a breaking point as they prepared for their arraignment, locked in separate cells. "Come back to us," Liam said, not yet opening his eyes, but there was something in the air, an energy, a presence. It wasn't over by any means, but the enemy was now exposed, the truth was out, and justice was finally being served. "And you always thought you were God." The guards separated them, but it was obvious that there would be no reconciliation. Grace accused Ree of manipulating her, and Reyes accused her of becoming emotional and displaying her guilt. "You always were weak," he hissed. "You always thought you could save everyone." Grace fired back. The Spencer family was united, broken but not destroyed, and as the sun rose the following morning, casting golden light through the blinds of Liam's room, Hope gasped as his eyes fluttered open for the first time in days. Their once strong bond, both personal and professional, was now irreparably broken. Back at the hospital, Liam's monitors beeped steadily, and Steffi, Bill, Hope, and Ridge took turns at his bedside. Ridge, Brooke, Katie, and even Thomas arrived to assist. It was far from done, but Liam was fighting his way back, and this time he wasn't alone. And as Bill leaned in, tears streaming down his cheeks, he muttered, "Welcome back, son." Liam's lips twitched, barely audible, but there. "I heard, Dad. Justice is just getting started, and we have a lot to discuss." The repercussions of Bill's shocking police confession about Ree and Grace Buckingham's medical swindle sends strong shock waves across Los Angeles, impacting every aspect of the Forrester, Spencer, and Logan families as the new week of the bold and the beautiful progresses. When Grace and Reese's arrest makes headlines throughout the media, from the LA Times to Spencer Publications' own gossip blog, the drama intensifies. As irate demonstrators and former patients demand responsibility for the scandalous physicians who were formerly connected to the glitzy fashion brand, Forrester Creations finds itself in a vulnerable situation. Consequently, social media conjecture erupts. Rich convenes a board emergency meeting to address the damage. However, tensions increase when Carter discloses that Grace had been negotiating a contract for a new medical relationship with Forrester Wellness, a transaction that now seems to be in jeopardy. Meanwhile, the week's emotional focal point at the hospital is Liam's sluggish and precarious recuperation. Doctors tell the family that Liam may still have neurological issues as a result of the unauthorized substance that Ree placed into his system after he briefly wakes up and whispers to Bill. Steffi seldom leaves Liam's room and spends a lot of time with him. An emotional battle between the two women who love Liam the most is set up when Hope, caught between loyalty and remorse, refuses to go. A particularly heartbreaking episode features an unanticipated moment of togetherness between Steffi and Hope. They both sob, clasp hands, and express their fear of losing him permanently. Brooke and Taylor, who are both in disbelief at their daughter's pain, see from the doorway how profound the emotional wounds will remain long after Liam, if he ever recovers, does. Bill is called to appear before a medical ethics council that is looking into the controversy across town, which draws him further into a convoluted moral conflict. As he leaves the courthouse, he is surrounded by reporters who force microphones into his face and ask him things like, "Did you fund illegal procedures for your son, and did you hire disgraced doctors knowingly?" Bill, who is often icy and calculating, growls with a rare display of emotion. "I will stop at nothing to keep my kid alive. Anything." However, there are repercussions from his choice to forego conventional hospitals. Liam could have been spared by his image as a cunning businessman, but at the expense of putting a whole healthcare system at risk. As everything plays out, Katie begs Bill to maintain a low profile, particularly now that Will is home for summer vacation and she's starting to hear gossip at school. Wyatt returns from overseas in the meanwhile, enraged at how things fell apart while he was away. Wyatt promises to do whatever it takes to preserve the family name and prevent the Spencer empire from collapsing under public scrutiny during a heated argument with Bill over maintaining secrets. Grace is seen in her orange jumpsuit, sitting quietly across from her court-appointed lawyer in the detention house. She is distraught, worn out, and filled with regret. In a terrifying turn of events, she is put in the same holding cell as Sheila Carter, who immediately starts taunting Grace with caustic remarks. "I take it you're a doctor? I receive fewer hate mail after killing people." Sheila sneers. Broken yet unbroken, Grace murmurs while holding her daughter's picture. "Instead of destroying someone, I was attempting to rescue them." Meanwhile, Ree strikes a deal with prosecutors in a desperate attempt to control the situation. He throws his ex-wife under the bus entirely in return for lowered charges, offering a thorough confession and claiming to have evidence that Grace never gave her approval for the neuroagent injection. He intends to get an early release, leave the town once again, and permanently vanish. Detective Sanchez, however, is not being mean. Sanchez yells, "You played God with a man's life. And you've already done it. You're not going to get a bargain, Dr. Buckingham." In the meanwhile, RJ and Luna's bond is tested as Luna struggles with the possibility of her mother spending years behind bars. RJ attempts to comfort her, but Luna loses it, furious that the unhealthy relationship between Grace and Reese has upended her life again. Luna admits, "I don't know who I am anymore. I was lying about everything I believed to be true." Both my father and mother were poisoned. Luna softly apologizes for what her family did as she visits Liam's bedside in a very moving scene. Observing from the doorway, Steffi softens for the first time, seeing Luna's suffering and giving a little but significant nod. Later, Luna informs Zen that she feels unwelcome in LA and may decide to leave the city completely. However, Zen, who has been grappling with his own guilt for bringing Luna into the sphere of her controlling mother, assures her that she is perfectly acceptable where she is. Don't run, fight. You're not your parents, says the man. In another scene, Thomas is caught off guard by the mayhem when he eventually makes it back to Los Angeles after spending time with Douglas. He confronts Hope about her sentiments after finding out that she has hardly left Liam's side since the operation. His eyes are blazing with ancient jealousy as he says, "Do you still love him?" The reality is too intricate for Hope to respond. Although Liam, the man she had believed she would spend her golden years with, is the father of her child, she still loves Thomas. They all agreed on a conclusion, and now he lays weak and shattered. Hurt and bewildered, Thomas tells her he needs time to reflect and maybe some distance from the Forresters and her. Thomas makes it plain that he will never again play second choice, despite Ridge's warning not to discard anything due to feelings. Brooke, meantime, exhorts Hope to be honest about her mixed feelings before she loses both guys. When Brooke says, "This is your chance to choose, not out of guilt, out of truth." As the week draws to a close, Liam's health starts to get a little better. He talks in brief sentences, recognizes people, and regains consciousness for greater periods of time, but he is not the same. He has mood swings, motor control deficits, and memory gaps, according to the doctors. In one scene, Liam reaches out and asks Bill, "Why did you let them do this to me?" It's a devastating moment that makes Bill feel ashamed of everything he's ever done. When Hope attempts to calm Liam, he becomes angry and calls for Steffi, and then Kelly. His expression briefly becomes calm when Steffi enters and tenderly places their girls' drawings on his bed. He whispers, "I want to go home." However, the physicians maintain that he is not yet prepared for release. As they discuss where Liam would go after leaving the hospital, Hope and Steffi's tensions increase once again. Taylor and Brooke intervene in an attempt to mediate, but they are unable to stop the impending emotional conflict.